Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Siegfried, and joining me is Newtnik Spielkis.
Newtnik Spielkis here. Who are you again?
Siegfried.
Did you say Siegfried?
Oh, this is good. And I just want to apologize to everyone because Erik and I are going to be eating yellow cake for most of the episode. So just give everyone a heads up that we will be doing that.
It might be slightly radioactive, though, because they did have the party actually in the nuclear radioactive material factory in Moscow. So they had to – the cake did not have its protective gear on, so who knows what kind of particles it picked up.
Oh, Max.
Oh, Max. I love how they call them Maxie. They call them actually Maxie throughout the movie.
And then I guess that bit's pretty funny in the beginning when they're playing paintball and they're like, all right, Maxi Pad. And he's like, oh, like I've never been called that. I've always been called that before. He's like, wait, I've never been called that before. The one thing I want to say, though, about the cake gag is that's everything I love in film, because I love when something in the script, I mean, it's always written, but then they're like, oh, we got to go find yellow cake now. I like that it was like, that's not an improv. They had yellow cake inside that place just to have that visual gag. And that makes me so happy.
Yeah. And is radioactive material actually called yellow cake? I mean, I don't even know what yellow cake is. I mean, it's a pretty good writing to tie that together.
And the bakery scene, he's like, I'm looking for something hot. I have a boyfriend, but I guess I could do something.
There are so many gags in this movie that it's just one after the other. You could almost just listen to this movie while you're driving and not actually watch it and enjoy it just as much because it's so funny. It actually reminds me of the Naked Gun movies and the Hot Shots movies as well. Even though this was in 2008, it almost felt like a throwback to the 90s.
We know the director did Naked Gun 33 1/3, Peter Segal.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, great connection.
Yeah, so he did that. And also, I found out something random. Buck Henry, one of the original creators of the show, he wrote To Die For, and the stunt coordinator, Doug Coleman, Get Smart's, the 2008 film, Doug Coleman, he was the stunt coordinator on Get Smart. So on To Die For, he did stunts on a movie written by the guy who wrote The Graduate, and then also started Get Smart, and then years later he was the stunt coordinator on the that's like a remake adaptation, TV adaptation of Get Smart. So everything, everywhere, all at once, all connected.
So the stars align for a comedy, action, spy, thriller movie. Or like, how would you describe this movie? Would you say it's a spoof, or is it? Oh no, I don't know how to pronounce this word. Is it? Homage or homage? What is it? Homage to some of the spy movies of yesterday?
Listen, I say homage because that's fancier. But
yeah.
On Google though, it just says
homage.
Homage. So it's either homage or you can put some extra zhuzh on it. I don't know if that's the right word, but go homage.
I think in one of the interviews for the movie, I heard Anne Hathaway say homage. But she sounded so natural saying it, so I'm gonna go with homage. Yeah.
Was she drinking
rolled off
a LaCroix?
Yeah, and she had a long cigarette too, a really long one.
Was she dressed like Cruella de Vil while doing this? She's great. I'm just like picture. This is a visual I'm getting now. Does she have a martini in her hand?
How it was the comedy was homage to the classic spy thrillers.
It's interesting you ask that because this movie's not a spoof. It really isn't, because when you look at Scary Movie, like, so a spoof, everyone knows this. Sorry if I'm explaining, but you get Rambo First Blood, Rambo 3, then you get Hot Shots Part 2, which spoofs directly a scene, or Airplane, which spoofs movies that are almost shot-for-shot remakes of other airplane disaster films. This is more of I would say more of an adaptation. I mean, the director, he said his influences were what? Born Identity? And several other films.
Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, Dr. Strangelove. Listen, I think Dr. Strangelove is if I had to pick the funniest movie ever made, I would say Dr. Strangelove, because it is so dry. But this movie's not that either. But there's very gaggy moments like the yellow cake. I mean, Steve Carell's performance it's not natural. Like, so you watch Leslie Nielsen in Airplane and how serious he is. Yes, I am. Don't call me Shirley. So he's not doing that in this. It's a really odd performance, but I would say it's an homage. It's an adaptation. I think they wanted to be faithful to it, but then they also wanted to land a plane on a SUV that lands onto train tracks that explodes onto a train. They wanted to modernize it.
That was a legit action sequence. They would not have that type of movie in a spoof, a type of action scene in a spoof for sure.
I mean, Hot Shots Part 2, he just kills a bunch of dudes and then they just rack up the scores and that's it. There's no.
But this one had character development.
Yeah. I mean,
it had a love story. It had some legit action sequences as well. They had a funny dance scene. Any movie with a funny dance scene, I'm all for it.
I mean, they had people that I mean, Anne Hathaway, Steve Carell, and the Great Khali. They did not jump out of an airplane together and smooch and kick each other in the balls, but they did have a stunt crew going out. I mean, they got aerial shots. I mean, that's a legit thing. But you got to remember, man, this movie had a pedigree. Anne Hathaway was hot. She had just done Brokeback Mountain, so she had a lot of heat on her. Steve Carell.
That was right after The Devil Wears Prada, too.
Yeah, she was just I guess like Hansel. She was so hot right now. You had Steve Carell who had The Office. He was coming off of Anchorman. 40-Year-Old Virgin. Dwayne Johnson was just ripping it up at the time. Alan Arkin, I believe, he probably had just won his Oscar for Little Miss Sunshine.
He was funny. He was so funny too. Everybody was funny.
And then you got Peter Segal, who had done Longest Yard, which was a giant movie. I mean, 50 First Dates. So this movie had a budget. This wasn't a Joe Schmo movie.
It made $130 million. In the theaters.
Yeah, 225 worldwide.
Oh, good call.
Yeah, so I think, but 130 domestic for a adaptation of a 1965 TV show. And let me read you a list, Eric. A-Team 2010, 21 Jump Street 2012, Aeon Flux 2005, Charlie's Angels 2000, Dark Shadows 2012, Dukes of Hazzard 2005, Honeymooners 2005, Bewitched 2005, I Spy 2002, Land of the Lost 2009, Miami Vice 2006, Scooby-Doo 2002, Sex and the City 2008, Simpsons 2007, Starsky and Hutch 2004, SWAT 2003. This could have easily have been like the horror remakes around 2008 that people were just exhausted by. And in the 2000s, I've written about this, like horror remakes were gigantic. They were everywhere. They were making money, pulling in change, just big money, little budgets. But this could have come out when people were just sick of TV adaptations. Like, get me out of here. But I think it did enough with the cast it had to go and make $225 million without really the blessing of critics. I think people just responded to it.
Well, it was also interesting. I watched this with zero knowledge of the original TV series. Like, there's some quirky moments in the movie where I figured, okay, that has to have something to do with the original. But it was an adaptation, but I had not ever seen the original TV show. So it was brand new to our generation, essentially.
Yeah, I knew nothing about it either. I mean, when A-Team came out, we knew about it. When Dukes of Hazzard, I never watched Dukes of Hazzard, but I knew about the car. I knew about the car flipping up and going over the ramps. I think there were a few shows that I was familiar with, but yeah, I knew nothing about it. But I think it was from the 60s. And so, you know what's interesting too about this movie? It's not very dirty. There are some poop gags and like a few other suggestive innuendos, but this is a movie that probably could have appealed to people who enjoyed it in 65 and then a younger crowd, because it's not an outright spoof. It wasn't exactly dirty.
It was cleaner comedy for sure.
Yeah, it was cleaner. I mean, there were a few gags thrown in, but other than that, yeah, I think it's kind of I wouldn't call it a 4-quadrant movie. But I guess a parent could take their kid to go see this and everyone could find something they liked in it.
Yeah, like middle schoolers and up, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, just because like for a 13-year-old can go see this movie, there's groin strikes, there's some action, there's The Rock, there's bugs being destroyed, there's some comedy gags. But also though, I mean, but then you just get the innuendo like at the bread store, and then you get Alan Arkin almost getting speared by a fish. There's a lot to like.
The speared by the fish part, that was hilarious. It's like oh shit, a swordfish almost went through my head. Like, who wrote that? Who wrote a giant swordfish going through the windshield of a car? But that was after they stole the car from the government official who made a big deal about them stealing it, and then just thoroughly thrashed the car. was great. It was just so funny. There's just gag after gag that keeps you engaged in the movie. I think my attention span is naturally getting shorter as I get older. And plus there's so much content out there. A lot of times I watch a movie while doing something else. But when I watch this, it's just the funny gags just kept me in the movie.
I mean, and Alan Arkin too, he started off in improv. I think he started either the Foundling or the Groundlings or Second City, I believe. So, I mean, you put him in front of a swordfish in a car and he'll find some magic there for sure. Because, yeah, that just the line delivery.
Is that a line that you've never thought or never envisioned that you'd say? Like, you put someone with a swordfish in a car and magic happens?
That's a line you wish you could say in your life and walk away from it. Just, what happened to you today, Mark? Well, that swordfish almost speared me in my face. Because that thing pierced glass. So that thing would have gone through Alan Arkin's head like, I don't know, a needle going through cotton.
Great party story for sure.
Mark, what happened to your eye? Well, sit down. Let me talk to you. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, it has an overall positive vibe to it. You have Steve Carell absolutely committed to his bit. I mean, just he zeroed in on a character and then he did not waver from there. But I think what's nice about Max is that he's good at what he does, but he's also terrible at what he does. So I think,
and he's completely overconfident as well.
And oh man, yeah, his hyper confidence. Well, so he's an amazing analyst. I mean, he's one of the best. I mean, he can look into comfort food and just find, he's
extremely thorough.
Oh yeah, 100 pages of notes. So he's confident what he does. And then, you know, this dawned on me between Just Friends and this is 2 movies in a row we've talked about with fat suits.
Yeah, the flashbacks to overweight days. It provides some good laughs in both movies.
It's I don't know why it's in this movie, but
it's because he always wanted to be an agent, but his fitness, I think he said it like his fitness was less than exceptional.
And then
he couldn't pass the test, so he became an agent or became an analyst.
And then he finally passed it. But I guess just watching him where he is hyper confident, but maybe he doesn't want to admit it because he's insecure and he's with other agents. You know, when you've been around, I guess sometimes when you're used to the alphas in your group, then you become one of them. You probably don't ask for help. You're like, I got it. You know, you don't want to be, you want to look like an alpha with the alphas. And plus he was an analyst for all those years. So they didn't want him to move up. So then he probably had something to prove and not ask for help. Does that make sense? There's probably ego bits in there.
Yeah, most likely.
We're looking too much into this character.
Overall, I just think it's funnier that he has moments where he's a total idiot, like in the bathroom where he keeps shooting himself with the darts.
Yeah.
Then he falls out the escape hatch in the airplane. But then he has times of brilliance, and he's not a complete pushover, but he's still really self-deprecating. So there's a lot of different areas that I think he really could sink his teeth into.
Like, he's a good shot. He can drive the vehicles. He can dance. He's very strong. He's quite flexible. He does splits.
So he picked up that woman over his head during the dance scene.
So he's wildly strong, very flexible, but he's an idiot. But I think that's where the human comes in because sometimes movies like to make fun of characters because they're just not good at what they do. It's nice. I think in most movies it's nice to have like Captain Ron. This is a really weird example. But he's a maniac, but he's good at what he does. The opening scene, he just drives a boat like a maniac, but parks it perfectly. And he knows what's going. He's a capable idiot. I think sometimes capable idiots provide frustration, but then they also provide some solace because you're not with a total idiot, if that makes sense. Like these, like Dumb and Dumber. I guess, you know, if they were capable, that would be a totally different movie. So
yeah, one of my favorite parts of the movie. About his overweight past was when he was at the party in Russia and he walked past all the beautiful women to ask the other like large woman to dance with him. And she was a great dancer and he was a great dancer. And it's just that tie in together about his backstory just opened the door to a lot of great humor. And
Yeah.
I thought like that they didn't need that scene. They didn't need that scene at all in the movie, and it was so funky, which is probably why I liked it, because she was sassy. I know she flicked off the other ladies too while they were dancing, but that was probably hands down my favorite part of the movie.
Oh yeah, she stole the show. But I also like too where when he's talking about the quote unquote villains, he's like, yeah, they're people too. They're just in different situations. So he does have a positive worldview, and he does win over the Great Khali. So it's interesting watching this movie about spies and terrorists, but then you have a guy who does see the best in people. It's not overly what's the word? It's not like xenophobic. It's not like over just rah spy
It's not
movie.
black and white,
Yeah.
good guy, bad guy.
So I mean, at least it's like they try to go out of their way to make this complete idiot. But then there's, but I guess he's surrounded by idiot spies. So he's been an analyst. So maybe he just sees things differently than everybody else.
Maybe. I think they set up his character really well at the beginning when he's in his house or his apartment, and he was getting ready to go into work, and there were just Post-it notes everywhere. Like, he was so organized. Like, he had this routine in the morning, notes everywhere, extraordinarily thorough at everything he does. So it's just, I loved how they set up the character that way. And speaking of that, I thought they introduced all the characters perfectly, actually. Like, when they introduced the Rock, he was like walking in all confident. The receptionist was looking at him all sexy, and then The Rock is looking confident and walks right into a wall.
Yeah, they kind of set him up as he's hyper confident, but he's also very kind of a doofus, and he's very self-conscious as well, insecure.
Yeah, exactly. And that came to play at the end too, when Anne Hathaway was like, "Has anyone nobody's ever broken up with you before?"
But what's interesting, in his house though, the milk goes bad, and he needs new things. Do you see him as being a guy who lets the milk go bad?
Yeah, because I think he just works all the time.
Got it.
This is pre Instacart days.
If he had Instacart, he'd be way better. He
probably is putting in 14-hour days in the office writing these 500-page reports.
Can you imagine listening to that? Just a 100-page report.
No.
I
have to warn you, the next 100 pages might be a little dry.
Just give me a PowerPoint. Just give me high level, and then send me off with a dossier with highlighted stuff.
So Mark's more of an agent than a field agent.
No, so I pull research for Rotten Tomatoes, and what I do is I pull 20 pages of research, but what I do is I highlight the stuff that I think is really cool in red. So if people don't have time to read everything, they can just flip through and read the cool stuff in red. So then you can either read it all, or you can read the tidbits that I find most interesting, or I put the top 5 links on the top. So like, these are the 5 most interesting links. You can read these if you don't have time to go through the rest. So I try to make it easy for people who are using this research. Steve Carell or Maxwell does not. I mean, 100 pages. You know how much crime could be stopped?
Aggressive. Well, it's like passive aggressive in a way. Like, it's this inflated sense of self-importance that you must read my extensive dossier or report on this subject, because I'm making it unnecessarily long just so you think I am smarter than I am.
Whoa. So do you think he's a good analyst, or do you think he's just peacocking?
Oh, both. Totally both. That's the overconfidence part.
Whoa. So, yeah, I guess he does make some of the best agents in the world sit there for hours instead of agenting, because they have to listen to 100 pages. That's an audiobook. Like, you're there for 8 hours.
That's an all-nighter.
At least get Neil Gaiman to read it. Give someone interesting to do.
Did you say Neil Diamond?
No, Neil Gaiman. He wrote Good Omens, one of my favorite. He's an excellent writer, but his voice is just perfect. Or Neil Diamond.
Or Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh yeah, it's any of the Neils. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil McDonough. Neil McDonough.
I don't know any more Neils. That's it. I'm Neiled out.
Oh man. Lorenzo Neal. Was he a football player?
Yeah, he was a fullback. I'd listen to him. I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, that's interesting. I never even thought about that. But yeah, he's the over self-importance. Jeez, I guess I was just sort of took him as oblivious to that. But so you're saying there's some like Machiavellian techniques in this guy, passive aggressive techniques.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
He harbors resentment about not being coming. Oh.
He wants to be an agent so badly that he's just trying too hard.
Is The Rock Agent 99? Wait, Agent...
No.
Is he an enabler?
Anne Hathaway was 99. Rock was 23.
23. I'd be 45.
45.
Is 45.
Inside joke.
Would Dwayne Johnson, he kind of enabled him, but he was nice to Max.
But he was the nicest. He stuck up for him, too.
He breaks phones, and then Terry Crews will say, next time, use your own phone.
Yeah, the pairs of side characters were great. The engineers were great. They were so funny. Terry Crews. And who's the guy from Anchorman that he was with?
Which one? Oh, Terry Crews? And then David Koechner?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
They were excellent. Can we talk about The Rock for a second?
Yeah.
Is this the only movie where The Rock was a villain?
So he's a villain in The Mummy 2, but he's just a giant scorpion. So I don't know if that counts.
It's just CGI villain, so that doesn't really count.
He becomes a villain in Doom, but that's after being the good guy. So then
that was the same in Get Smart. It was the good guy who became the villain as well.
And then he has to fight Carl Urban. And then in Faster, he's on a revenge mission, and he's being hunted by Billy Bob Thornton, which is amazing. So he's an anti-hero in that.
Faster, isn't that the one with Ethan Hawke and Selena Gomez?
No, I was gonna say that's 24 Hours to Live, but that's not that. That's The Getaway.
Oh,
I think. Okay. Ethan Hawke did some funky movies there for a while. But yeah,
Ethan Hawke is on a rampage lately, by the way. He's amazing in Moon Knight.
Oh, he's a beast. I love Ethan Hawke. He's so good. Also, Oscar Isaac's really good in that show.
Yeah, he's a Miami guy. I love watching him.
Oscar Isaac?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, it's like Ethan Hawke is the Miami guy? But
no.
But The Rock, you know what I learned from him is that he really wanted to try different roles. So I've been doing a lot of work with him recently of research for him for different shows. And he really wanted to be the more I read about him, he really wanted to be, an all-around actor. He said he wanted to be a Tom Hanks or somebody like that. So he started, he kind of started trying different roles. So The Rundown, he did Walking Tall. Then he moved Dune and became bad. But then Southland Tales happened. And this was a really important moment because this was sorry if you know all this, Erik. But he was in Richard Kelly's movie that was a follow-up to Donnie Darko. And it went to Cannes unfinished and was just disastrous. And everyone hated it. Didn't get a theatrical release. And he kind of put his heart and soul in it, name on it. And this is a guy who was used to being cheered on by 50,000 people. And then all of a sudden people were booing and laughing at him. So I think that really changed how he made movies. And then he made Gridiron Gang. Then he became The Game Plan, then Get Smart, then Race the Witch Mountain. So he went too far with Southland Tales. And then he started doing kind of kids movies. But then he started...
The Tooth Fairy, too, was in there somewhere.
And then he kind of was like, well, I got to get my edge back. So then he goes and does the other guys. He does Faster, and then he does Fast 5, which put him in the stratosphere. But then he's like, I'm too much of an action hero. So he does Journey to the Mysterious Island. Then he does Snitch, and no one wants to watch it. And then he does Pain and Gain, which is his best performance, but not many people watched it. Brutal, bleak, dark. But then after that, everything changed, man. It just went from Hercules to San Andreas to Central Intelligence to Baywatch to Jumanji to Rampage, Skyscraper to Hobbs and Shaw, Jumanji, Jungle Cruise. He's Red Notice. He's the good guy now. And he does turn. Have you seen Red Notice?
I have, but I don't really remember it. I think I was more annoyed by the snarky Ryan Reynolds than the sincere Ryan Reynolds.
It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, man. But the COVID affected it big time. But he does flip in that. But now he's Mr. kind of family friendly. And I think his days of villainy. I know Black Adam has.
He was great though, but he was great in The Other Guys, being such a jerk. They jumped off the building. Yeah,
he just hasn't done that in a long time. I think he's built his brand. He wants to be Mr. He's just the nice guy. So I think that's his thing now. I don't know if he's ever gonna do a uber villain role anymore.
The problem is I watched Rampage. I don't remember it. I watched the skyscraper movie. I don't remember it.
Just the jump.
Yeah, that's it. And all these they're just not memorable. It's just disposable entertainment. But I remember The Other Guys. I remember Get Smart.
Can I complain about something?
Yeah.
In San Andreas, he is a rescue helicopter pilot. And I was writing an article for Cracked in 2019, And I was researching how many of those helicopters there are in Los Angeles, and there's 4 of them. So that's his job to rescue residents, and he takes it to go rescue his wife, and then goes to rescue his daughter. But he took with him 25% of Los Angeles' rescue helicopters after one of the biggest earthquakes of ever, and he took off with 25% of their.
Well, maybe they had the National Guard there too. Maybe they had the Army. Maybe they called in some additional resources. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here.
I get saving your family, but he's got to also, he's going to get fired from his job if I'm his boss, right? If I'm Hank McCluskey, his boss, I'm like, listen, you stole 25% of our rescue things. We could have saved, our helicopter pilots could have saved their families if you just would have traded out with them. But yeah, I'd fire him. Just want to give you a heads up about San Andreas. It's annoying.
All right, thanks. I haven't seen it.
Got it. But yeah, he steals a helicopter. I mean, to save his wife, whatever. But like, whatever. Everyone else would do it. But I just want to say he's not as he's a little gray in that movie. But no, in this one he's fun, man. It's fun. I don't know. It's fun. Remember him when he wrestled? Did you watch some wrestling?
Oh yeah, for sure. When he first got huge.
Yeah, he ate it up though. But he was called everybody Rudy Tooties and Jabronis, and
he would sing songs. He had a guitar. He knew a couple chords, and he would talk trash via songs and all the markets he would travel to.
All he did was talk trash, and so he and Chris Jericho built their brand off of talking trash. So I just think
Chris Jericho.
He I read all 3 of his books, by the way, Chris Jericho, but he came from that end. But now I think he's happy doing Jungle Cruise because, well, dude, Red Notice was the most watched movie on Netflix. Jungle Cruise, they're making a sequel. Jumanji: The Next Level, those Jumanji movies, they made like $900 million. Just bank. So, listen, he wants money. He's not going to go do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Jumanji was good. It had a phenomenal cast.
Oh, I mean, he loves Kevin Hart, but also too, this is another thing, but he loves getting with the same director. So, he did Ross and Marshall Thurber. He's done 3 movies with him. He did 4 movies with another guy that Jean Colette Serra. He's doing Black Adam with him and Jungle Cruise. So I think he just gets with people he feels safe with and makes his Red Notice movies.
He's making money. He's cranking out content. He's doing it on his terms, making a buttload of money on Terramana tequila and other investments. So, I mean, he's doing something right. Sure.
He made more than Clooney in 1 year than Clooney has.
With Terramana?
Yeah.
He's got the new energy drink now too. Zoa, I think it's called.
He's everywhere. He's behind you right now, Erik. But no, in this movie though, I do love him. I like the attitude. I like the old school attitude era rock. He is fun in this. I like insecure Dwayne Johnson, but he works well with Anne Hathaway too because you know I like her in this movie. She's super like she had been crushing it for years. She was a kid actress, so she grew up was hyper confident with all these guys. I thought she nailed it too, and she took this role to prove that she could have action chops.
Yeah, well, she kind of breezed through it, in my opinion. It wasn't a challenge for her, but she had a lot of fun. I mean, she got to look sexy. She got to have action experience. She got to kick ass. I mean, there were action scenes where she kicked people to face. She had a funny dance sequence too. Plus, I mean, working with Steve Carell, I watched some of the interviews and they had a lot of really good chemistry. So if you're going to spend 6 months of your life on a project, just laugh every day, have fun.
I mean, they wanted to make a sequel up to about 2013 because this movie warranted it. But when you have Steve Carell, who was blowing up, when you have Anne Hathaway, when you have the people that you do, it's probably hard to get them together. And plus, this wasn't a massive hit. If this made $500 million, they would have made a sequel. But like, I don't know where Max goes from here because I think this is
he accomplished his goal.
Yeah.
Already. He already rescued the world from an atomic bomb. Mm-hmm. That's the problem in the Fast and the Furious movies, like or the Mission Impossible movies. Like how many atomic bombs can you save the world from?
Not another one.
Scale it back a little bit. Have a little more dread and suspense.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no way for his character to go. He becomes an agent. He saves the world. What's the next one? He just kind of does something dumb, and then he gets. Yeah, I don't know how that would work, but Steve Carell wrote the script, so that'd be interesting to watch. But I don't know. I at the end, but see, I remember watching this movie. I don't think I saw it in theaters because this came out in 2008 when I was in Korea, so I think I had to rent it. Or did I watch this in the theater? I don't know. That was forever. That was 14 years ago, Erik. Jeez Louise. But
2008 was 14 years ago.
Yeah. It's crazy.
When you put it in those terms, I know the math is easy, but it's still something in your brain is like 14 years. It seems like yesterday.
I've known Norbert for a long time. But
yeah, shout out to Norbert. I enjoy his episodes on the podcast.
Yeah, but I remember watching this and just thinking how nice. It was just a good. It's weird watching a movie like this because sometimes you get action films, action comedies where the action's bad. It's secondary. But in this one, I mean, that finale is pretty balls to the walls.
The action was legit. It was a long scene. I think that was like at least a 12, 13-minute scene at the end with all the action with the train, the plane, the car chase. But I think how they did it well was it was action, comedy. There's a lot of comedy mixed in with the action. And I think the action sequences with comedy, it's just so funny. And it just really keeps your attention.
The director said that they did punch, joke with a lot of it.
So it's a good combo.
Remember that scene where they're fighting the Great Khali, who I saw live once. I saw him fight John Cena and Umaga. So his name's Dilip Singh. I keep calling him the Great Khali. But I remember that fight scene where he's throwing air conditioners, and then next moment he's talking about how his sister-in-law is such a pain in the butt. Like there's just the
and then
beats in here.
They both love American Top 40 with Ryan Seacrest. And then he later sent them a message via that radio program.
And I love that he took off without them. So he helped them.
Steve Carell called him a douchebag for leaving without.
But I think, you're right though, but I was thinking about the theme in this movie where you brought this up, where he saves the day, but then he moons the entire audience. The Rock looks super cool, but then he walks into it
was like a doorway.
Yeah, walks into a doorway. Steve Carell steals a car and looks super boss, but it runs out of gas. So
and then he gets hit by another car.
Yeah. It just, I think they're big into that, right? You have.
What is funny about that? What is it in our brains that finds the humiliation after triumph to be entertaining or funny?
Because I guess there's just some triumph involved. You kind of take the wind out of its sails. You're not trying none of that ever happens in Michael Bay movies. They're really fun. But imagine if after the superhero landing of Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, I don't know, like a giant pie lands on them. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I guess what do people like about that? That's a good question. I think if these were bozos and then something bad happens to them, it's just piling on. But since they're...
Is it just, maybe it's your brain going on a roller coaster, the highs and the lows and the endorphins, or is it more relatable to our everyday life?
And then think about this too, the scene where he's going through the lasers doing it great, but there's a rat on him.
Well, the rat went into his shirt. It was all throughout his running around.
But he was doing great before the rat.
Yeah. It was very impressive, some of the handstands he did.
So I guess it's sort of, but there's also a science to movies where when I broke down the explosions of Michael Bay movies, the majority of the explosions happen in the beginning, and then you have some at 30 minutes, and you have some at 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and they go off at the end. So I think it's just a science and sort of getting audiences into a particular brand of humor. And then that's because this is a comfort food movie, because you think Max is guilty for about 6 seconds and he frees himself from prison. There's really no real world consequences here at all. When there's a misunderstanding, they become friends again. When anything happens, when he loses his, when he doesn't become an agent, he saves the world. So I think it's just they put a science to it. They had some good actors, and it's just. This is never going to be considered a classic comedy.
No.
This is like Tropic Thunder came out in the same year. I mean, people talk about that a lot because it was edgy. It was quote worthy. It featured really nuts performances. This is just an effective, nice movie. But yeah, I don't.
Which one has longer shelf life though? Get Smart or Tropic Thunder?
Oh, Tropic Thunder, because people are still talking about Robert Downey Jr. He was Oscar nominated for it. You have sort of Ben Stiller every now and again going, we couldn't make this movie anymore. So you keep getting articles about it. But when you think about Get Smart, it's just fun. Just a nice.
Sure, the Tropic Thunder cast was even bigger than Get Smart. And that's hard to do.
Yeah, that was. I mean,
Tom Cruise, McConaughey.
Oh, and Tom Cruise is
Jack
always.
Black.
Yeah, what a cast. And another scene when Max kicks the table into the guy's balls.
Yeah.
And then he has to pick him up. So this movie, it's just a pattern. I think it's just a comedy beat that I never picked up on until you brought up to me. But now that I think about it, it's just success, failure, success, failure, success, failure. So that's funny.
It's algebra. It's just a formula for how to write the movie. I think if we're talking about the writing, I got a question for Mark here. I got a question for Mark's section in every one of these episodes. So you've got the success, failure, and I still love to explore why that resonates with people. But I would go out on a limb here and say I've never seen a movie before that had so many references at the beginning come back around and be included at the end of the movie. For example, the knife wound that The Rock had during their paintball training, that's what gave him up in the end. The suit on display in the museum, he wore that again at the end. The beef between the chief of control and the vice president came back at the end. The Geiger counter watch in the Russian bathroom, and again with The Rock at the end. Or when the skydive scene, when Anne Hathaway kissed the assassin, and then at the end Max Mark kissed The Rock to try and get away from him. There's so many things at the beginning that just come back at the end, and I probably only named 20% of them. So, like, one, why does that help with the script writing, Mark? And two, why is that funny? Is it because there's a little light bulb in your head that goes off along with the humor?
Yeah, I think you get like Chekhov's gun. If you see it in the beginning, it has to be used later on. But I think it just makes for a tighter screenplay. I mean, I guess the one thing that I'm realizing more about this screenplay is how by the numbers it was. So we create something, we got to use it later. We're going to have success, then we're going to have failure. But if you look at Big Bang Theory, if you look at every comedy sitcom ever made, there's a pattern to all the laughs. There's a setup for all of them. So I think, I mean, you watch Tremors, the majority of the stuff in the beginning popped up at the end. I think it's just tight screenwriting. So I think it's just tidy, it's tight, it keeps things focused, it rewards viewers for actually watching, it gives you fun things to watch again. But as a screenwriter, I think it's also a nice guidepost. You're like, oh yeah, I had that hat earlier on, I should bring that hat back because then that makes sense. So yeah, it's just making a tight script.
Yeah, for me it's the light bulb effect too, the funniness, and then the joy of just putting two and two together. Like, like when you solve a math problem and you're like, oh, I feel good. Or like just connecting those dots in the movie. It's a good way to keep people engaged.
Oh, and also this writer, he had done a lot of TV before, let's see, Tom J. Assel. He wrote tons of TV.
Did you just say Tom J. Asshole?
Astale. Astle?
Okay.
Astle?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I thought about that. I was like, how do I say this? And then his writing partner was known for like failure to launch rom-coms, tons of TV. So these were TV writers. So there's beats. You're familiar with your characters. There's the commercial breaks. There's the setup for the jokes. Did I do that? Like, it's kind of, I think they're just used to patterns in shows. I know. So maybe this movie is a direct influence of their time on TV, which, hey, I'm happy I brought up TV before I found out that they were TV writers. Yeah, because it feels like a very TV-driven script because...
Good point.
I mean, you just tie it up into a nice tidy bow. You have to tell, you have something in the beginning, it comes back at the end. You get the same sort of punchlines, but it's still effective. And I know Steve Carell had a lot of work on it. There's a lot of improv on it as well. You don't bring these people in and don't improv. But yeah, I mean, it's tidy filmmaking. I mean, and then, stuff like that just allows you to focus on the action scenes. When you just got a nice tidy script, then you can focus on improv on set. You can do all that. So, because we know, once you have a few there's an outline for a script. This will come back later. This will come back later. This will come back later. Then improv. Like Terence Stamp, most of the stuff that came out of his mouth I felt was improv. Like, you're the only person I know who snores while they're awake. Just super mean.
That guy was so mean to the assassin.
Oh yeah.
Why would you be mean to an assassin?
Yeah, that was a bad idea. Yeah.
The whole time he was just berating him.
And I like when he was eating. He just insulted him for eating. He was like, "What is going on here?"
And then when he insulted his wife, that was crossed the line. Mm-hmm. He just had enough, and he knocked him out of the car.
How strong is that guy?
I don't know, but he's got to be up there with Bjorn from Iceland from Game of Thrones.
Beast. But no, that's, it's kind of funny you brought that up about the screenplay. It's just, but also too, like, you watch a lot of these TV shows and you don't really learn too many lessons from watching an episode of Big Bang Theory. You just put it on and watch it in the background. And that's not an insult. There's a science to it. But that's the way I look at pop songs too, where there's an art to a great pop song. And I don't think they should be considered less art. I mean, you listen to what, Black Eyed Peas in their heyday.
Yeah.
With, like, I got a feeling tonight's gonna be a good night. I mean, that's
yeah. Is it art or is it chemistry when you put all the right ingredients together?
Let's see.
I look at it as chemistry.
Are they trying?
Every once in a while, you'll have the right little bit of this and the right little bit about that, and it all just kind of come together.
So
and magic will happen.
They're clearly not trying to make, an outright art album, I guess. I guess they are finding a sweet science. Well, how about that? The sweet science. There's an art to creating a sweet pop song, if that makes sense.
I agree. I see what you're saying.
I think maybe this movie is that, where it's just sort of the same kind of beats, but it gets that familiarity in you, and then you enjoy it and you just go along with the ride. It's very amiable. Just a nice.
Oh, that's another one we have to figure out.
Yeah, it's a nice, pleasant movie that I think.
I agree.
I mean, but like, there's also good lines in here. So there's a scene where they're talking about making puddings out of bones, and they're like, "That would be crunchy pudding." Like, there's just stupid stuff like that. That's funny,
that was
though.
The war room with all the senior officials.
And I guess that's
I
kind of.
I just got a new pacemaker. I can do this all day.
It reminds me of Dr. Strangelove. There's a deleted scene like, "There's no fighting in the war room." But yeah, it's
Well, while we're on questions for Mark, I'm trying to stump you. I got a couple more for you here. So I have so many questions about hallway laser scenes. There's a lot of hallway laser scenes in movies. There's sometimes the lasers like zap through something, or sometimes they're just sensory and set off an alarm. Or sometimes they're very violent, like in Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. What are some of your favorite hallway laser scenes that you've seen?
I mean, for me, it's got to be Resident Evil, because when you think about entrapment, that's nothing but a trailer moment. That's nothing but just, how do we get this shot? Like some executive going, yeah.
Well, they're just selling Catherine Zeta-Jones' backside, that iconic shot. I mean, that's what you remember from entrapment.
And then Jay and Silent
Sean Connery and something about a castle. I don't know.
It was the perfect trailer moment. And then you get Jay and Silent Bob, which makes fun of that moment, but it's not really making fun of that moment because they just have a lady farting. But I think for me, Ocean's 12 has one too. But I think,
the French burglar was doing his routine.
Sweet capoeira. But for me, it's all about Resident Evil, because what a lot of people don't get is Paul W. Sanderson, the director, has a great sense of humor. And I love how the lasers have a sense of humor because the queen's doing it. So she sends one and the guy jumps over it. She sends two, the guy goes over it again. Three, he ducks under it. Then it just sends a grid. Turns him into cubes. But that's funny because it could have done that the entire time. But I think it's just Paul W. Sanderson saying, let's have fun with this. So yeah, for me, It's all about, and this one's fun too, because once again, he's looking great. Well, it is a funny scene where Anne Hathaway.
Triumph. Yeah, there's triumph because he showed off his moves and how good he was, because he was showing off for Anne Hathaway, and then a rat came out of nowhere and crawled down his shirt. Like, in this mansion for whatever reason, and then he kept getting zapped by the laser. There's triumph because he grabs a rose and he saws off the rose in the laser and puts it in his jacket pocket. So it was like triumph, embarrassment, triumph.
Oh man. And then also too, you get the funny line where she's like, are you looking at my butt? He's like, I'm not now. Well, I am now. Like, that's like you never expect somebody to be that honest in a scene. But yeah, so it's a good bit. It's funny. And you get the playback later with the rose.
It's funny because how do you not? You're just watching someone work their way through lasers. Like, it's unavoidable.
And also, you know what I was thinking too, just before we go back to lasers, but in the show, the main star was an idiot. He just bumbled his way through everything.
But he could fight though. He wasn't a complete idiot.
Oh no, but like I guess they wanted to keep that up a little bit in this movie where he wasn't winning by accident, because he can he nailed David Koechner from 30 yards right in the balls with the paintball on purpose. So I mean,
and then he said, "I'm not proud of what I just did."
Yeah, he can do it. So he's very talented. So I think in this one they made him less bumbling, but just more his hyper confidence gets him in trouble later on. If that makes sense. So
It does.
They found a way. But yeah, as far as lasers go, it's got to be Resident Evil because that laser has a sense of humor, and that makes me happy.
It was a horror because was that the one where they sawed off the lady's fingers?
Sawed off.
There's a scene in Resident Evil where someone held up a hand and the laser came by and lopped off her fingers.
Maybe that's it. I know one guy got sawed in half, got his head chopped off. Oh, one laser takes it. One laser, it starts low, then it starts going up. It just tricks somebody and cuts him because he tries to jump over it as the laser goes up. So it's just a sassy
that's
laser.
sinister.
Yeah, it's a sassy laser. So anytime I see a sassy laser, that gets my vote for sure.
Yeah, I wonder how they make those sinister lasers. Like, is there modern technology that actually has those? Like my garage door has a laser in it, like that senses if you're walking underneath the garage door. But you know, why do they even have gaps in the lasers?
But you know what? I think the Red Queen was just being cheeky. I think it was just having some fun. It's kind of devious, and also it's a funny moment. And you know what I love about film sometimes, where there's a scene in Dark Knight, this supposed super serious movie where Batman goes under a bridge during the day, and when he comes out, it's just dark night. And no one's like, I don't care. No one will care. So in this one, Paul W. Sanderson's like, it's just funny. It's a good bit. Why not? Sassy laser. Yeah.
Nice. My next one was I love the cameo of Bill Murray in the tree.
Oh yeah,
that's
hilarious.
And one thing the spoofiness aspect comes around there too when there's nobody on the Washington Mall in their secret entrance. Like, literally, there's not a soul in sight, and the actual entrance to the laboratory is in the middle of the pond, the reflection pond, and no one sees him going into this pond. So that was a spoofy aspect of it. But Bill Murray's character was actually, there was an agent who would just randomly pop into weird places like washing machines, trees, mailboxes. Like this guy would just show up in the most random places. So I had that running gag in the TV show. And I'm wondering, what are some of your favorite cameos that you've seen lately?
Oh, favorite cameos that I've seen lately?
Or of all time. Like, what makes a good cameo in your opinion?
I mean, Matt Damon.
Is it the randomness? Oh, was that the Euro trip?
Yeah. Just
the Scotty Doesn't Know song?
Yeah. It's why is he there? But he's selling it and he's having fun.
It's like, for me, it's like the cameo when you never see the actor do that role.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Damon's a classy guy, but then he's playing a punk rock guy singing the song called Scotty Doesn't Know. I think it's funnier to me when they're just so out of place.
You know, sorry, go for it.
But for Bill Murray, I felt like he was doing it as a tribute to the original show. He must have been a fan in order to do this movie.
I mean, he might have been in the tree. Bill Murray's crazy. But he's funny in Zombieland, too. I love his cameo in that.
Bill Murray's like a Yeti. It just randomly shows up sometimes.
Bigfoot, skunk ape hanging out in Florida. I do love that cameo, though. You're not going to come back, are you? But why was he? It was kind of interesting watching Steve Carell be kind of mean in that moment.
That was they purposely played it as an awkward conversation.
And also, too, another success scene is when he knows the numbers of the punch codes. Like he goes.
Well, they made sounds.
Yeah, I just think that's interesting. He's an analyst. So but if you think about it, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
I can't wait. Where are you going with this one? I can't wait to hear.
So this is a guy who can catch bullets in his teeth. He's kind of an idiot. He has his own. Ace Ventura wanted to play. Jim Carrey wanted to play the rock star of Pet Detectives, but he's an idiot. But he's very, like, a shark bites him, he succeeds, he solves the mission. He's hyper confident. When you look at, let's see, Happy Gilmore, total idiot, great golfer. So I think there's this sort of history of successful idiots.
Well, that's pretty much every Will Ferrell movie, right?
Yeah, Talladega Nights. but you know what's interesting though is this one though, his normal level isn't caricature like a Ricky Bobby or an Ace Ventura or Happy Gilmore. He's more of just a normal dude who's still all these guys had hyper confidence beyond hyper, like Adam Sandler, all those guys, that crew, SNL crew, and Mad TV, and then Daily Show. But I guess that's just a trait of comedy. Chevy Chase did that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people just like watching comedians be somewhat good at something while being an idiot. Sorry, I keep going on this, but it makes sense if you look through history. I didn't plan on this discussion going that way. And I'm very happy that we're not just naming off our top 100 funniest moments. That makes me very happy.
So many funny moments. Like the whole movie is a funny moment.
Right, so let's do that real quick. How about
it's on HBO Max, by the way, if anyone wants to watch it stream.
What are your 5 funniest moments?
Oh, okay. This Cone of Silence bit where it's not working, and he went the Cone of Silence to just start screaming about how happy he was to become an agent.
Oh man.
Whereas everyone like heard him screaming.
Like triumph.
So that was triumph. But that was triumph when he became an agent, and embarrassment with the Cone of Silence.
Jeez Louise.
I think like the second one was the dart in the face in the bathroom bit. I mean, that was funny. He got hit in the face. It went through his ear.
And those heal up very quickly.
Yeah. He didn't have any marks for that whatsoever.
He got his skin pierced.
Yeah, it went right into his cheek. I liked The Rock giving Terry Crews a wet willy.
Oh, yeah. You'll never see that. That's crazy. Wet willy.
Yeah, that was great. The dance scene for me was my favorite by far.
Got it.
I don't know. I think the swordfish to the face. Holy, he's like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? I don't know. Were you thinking, holy shit, I almost got a swordfish through my face?
And his line delivery is perfect.
The fighting with the vice president all the time. I mean, that was great.
I think for me, I like how they try to explain the age difference between Carell and Anne Hathaway with her face-off scenario.
And what's funny too is they both changed their appearance.
Oh yeah.
So they had that connection with the weight and the appearance.
I like that. I guess for me, I like the lady working in the bakery. She's like, well, I guess I could make an exception. I like the yellow cake because that just makes me very happy. I like the stapler to the head. I think the stapler to the head of David Koechner stands alongside Office Space, Drag Me to Hell, Home Alone 2, Christmas Vacation.
What are you talking about? Stapler what?
Remember when
stapler gags?
Yeah, stapler gags. Like, I have a red stapler in my office right now that I'm looking at. So, and Drag Me to Hell is my favorite horror movie ever made. I think it's absolutely hilarious. So, I mean, a lady catches a stapler in an eye, and then Home Alone, Harry and Marv, Marv takes 3 staples in the nose. Clark Griswold gets hit. There's a lot of them in The Wrestler, but I'm not really into
those were thumbtacks in The Wrestler when they got slammed on them.
Oh, he has a staple gun.
Did they?
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture right now. He was plugging it into his back.
Random story. I just saw Mickey Rourke in the Albuquerque airport a couple of weeks ago.
Nice. Did you go, hey, Mickey, you're so fine?
No, but I saw this flamboyant cowboy, and I'm like, that's the most flamboyant cowboy I've ever seen. And then the guy I was with was like, oh, that's a famous actor. I'm like, that's Mickey Rourke. We're at Albuquerque airport.
Nice. Just crushing it out there, huh?
Yeah.
No, yeah, so I got that. I like the stapler bit. And then, oh gosh, I highlighted so many lines. The muffin thing. Let's see. I did put Wet Willy in red. Oh, but there's that scene where she tells him to freeze and he says, you freeze.
Did you shush me?
Freeze times 10. Let's see. Oh, I do like when he said, would you believe me if I said there's 130 snipers outside? No. 32 commandos? No. Chuck Norris? And then he kicks the table into him. I like that.
Or when they're in the sewer, I've never seen James Bond walking around with rats or poop. But hey, look, there's a rat riding a piece of poop.
Oh, and there's also 2 lines where he's like, we're getting a Ferrari. Nobody will ever know that. And then that guy goes, holy shit, a Ferrari.
He takes a picture with the flip phone.
And then...
Dude, technology does not age. Technology from the 2000s does not age well.
No, it's bad. Yeah, it's just... There's a lot of flip phones in this. But also, I love talking about technology when they talk about belt. He's like, yeah, the technology for holding up pants hasn't changed much in the last... So that's a good bit right there. So those are some
but then they went into
moments.
the really serious one, how they had the poison pill in that thing.
Oh, yeah. But that's a good bit, though. Just the technology has not changed much for holding up pants. He's a sassy guy, Maxwell.
It was so well said, too.
No, I mean, listen, this movie, I think it works because just how likable Steve Carell is, how likable Anne Hathaway is, how likable Dwayne Johnson is. You got Alan Arkin. You have a deep bench of likable people. I mean, you know what's cool though is Terence Stamp's villain is an absolute nothing. If this movie wasn't a comedy, this would be the most one-note, boring villain on the planet. But since it's just Terence Stamp being sassy to everybody all the time, you like him. So I think they understood that the villain's not any part of this. And why? Okay, Roger Ebert said this first, but why put the bomb in that building? Why not put it in the abandoned building next door? Like you don't have to, like, you're still gonna blow up all of LA.
Yeah, that's spoof territory right there. It wasn't like a serious movie, but it was still fun.
I think what sells it though is the Homeland Security guy or Secret Service guy goes, how do we miss that?
Well, that was the same guy that gave him a hard time and wouldn't let him through the gate.
Oh yeah, that
the
punk.
beginning part.
And then
Steve Carell threatened him later on.
And they steal that other guy's car. But it's worth it for that gag, and just that they scheduled it with the Ode to Joy.
Yeah, for my questions for Mark, I have one more I had for you. How would you define Steve Carell's career in the last 5 years? And I'm asking because I watched Space Force. I like the Space Force series on Netflix with him as the general of the Space Force. And it's like he's going more toward like serious shows with a side of comedy versus doing just straight up comedy or straight up drama. How would you characterize some of the work he's done recently?
Yeah, I mean, he's gone. All right, so we're going to say, because he did 2015 was Big Short. I mean, but he's also been making so much money with Despicable Me. But yeah, then he went on to Last Flag Flying, which was Richard Linklater's serious role. Then he did Vice as Donald Rumsfeld. Then he did Welcome to Marlin, which was...
Wait, Linklater did a recent movie?
Yeah, Last Flag Flying with Bryan Cranston.
Linklater went into the drama?
Yeah. It's good. It's kind of a road trip type film. And then he did, like Welcome to Marlin. That was a Zemeckis picture that kind of bombed. And then, but you're right, Space Force and Morning Show, they're kind of comedy dramas with comedy.
Well, Morning Show, they had some elements of comedy.
But
yeah, he had a rough demise on the second season.
But yeah, I think, I guess, but look at Jim Carrey.
But his scenes with Jennifer Aniston were amazing in the Morning Show. Like the chemistry that they had together and that complex storyline was great.
I think there's only so much you can just get. I mean, you can't be the dude from Anchorman for the rest of your life. I mean, Sandler kind of lost a lot of his shticks, his swaggery shticks. If you look at Jim Carrey, he can't do Ace Ventura anymore. He played Dr. Robotnik.
Dude, Sonic 2 is great.
Yeah, I want to watch it.
By the way.
But that's like in a kid's movie, so he can kind of be silly. But he's definitely leaned towards more serious stuff. I think it's just no one wants to see you doing, because you're not trying anymore to. If you're doing Brick again, you're doing something wrong. And he tried to do Brick again in Anchorman 2, and that movie people didn't really love. So I think you just got to evolve as an actor.
Yeah, I'm glad to see him out of Suits later in his career. Early in his career, it's like he was always in a suit.
Just crushing suit. Oh, yeah, Anchorman.
For The Office, for a lot of movies, so it's great to see him move on.
Oh yeah, he's very suited. Oh, the way
a lot of suits.
I gotta say, he was really good.
He was a jerk.
Yeah,
he was a jerk in The Way Back.
He was scary.
He was a good jerk.
He was scary in that. So yeah, I think, he tried to do all that, like he tried to do Dinner for Schmucks and Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. And he tried to kind of be that guy for a while, and that didn't really. Dan in Real Life, where his face is just on pancakes. I think he tried to be like wow. He was in Little Miss Sunshine with Arkin as well. I forgot about that. But yeah, so I think he tried to do the serious thing for a while, and then he kind of went back to comedy. Now he's sort of found his groove. I think it's just finding your groove, I guess. But he keeps working. Space Force got canceled. Too expensive. Netflix cat.
Those are some big sets.
Yeah.
They had.
It's an expensive show.
The first season of Space Force was hilarious. The second one went more into drama land.
You know what I think it is? You develop a show over 7 years, and then they're like, all right, give me another season in 2 years. And just, where do you go from that?
I think they made their point. I like, they talked about the militarization of space and it had some humor over it. So, I mean, even if it ended at 2 seasons, I think it'll be remembered warmly.
Nice. Any other questions for me?
No, that's all my questions that I had for you.
All right, so we got to do this real quick. We'll do it real quick. But let's do a draft for this movie. So you pick 5 movies, I'll pick 5 movies, and let's just do this. Movies featuring a cast member from Get Smart.
Okay.
So you could do anyone you want. This is a big one. I just set you up with a... Oh, you know the stunt coordinator of this movie also did A Bronx Tale?
No, but that is a classic movie.
Well, that's too much. Let's do Steve Carell. Let's do the Steve Carell. Or Anne Hathaway. Which one you want to do? Anne Hathaway or Steve Carell?
Let's do the cast. Let's do cast.
Okay.
Because I'm going to go with Elf, James Caan.
All right, Elf. You'll take Elf. I'll take... Let's see. I'm already here. I'll do the way back.
With The Rock. Let's go Pain and Gain.
Ooh. He's so good in that. He'll never do a movie like that again. Even Michael Bay said that. I'll do The Devil Wears Prada.
He's too vulnerable in that one.
Yeah, he's so good. The Devil Wears Prada I'll take.
Okay, I'll go Batman for Anne Hathaway.
Ooh, Dark Knight Rises?
Yes.
Well, that's a big one. All right, I'm in trouble here. I got to go big. You know what? I'm going to go really small, and I'm going to say Cheap Thrills because I love that movie with David Koechner. All right, what do you got?
I'm going to get the third Despicable Me 3, where he did both Gru and Drew, his brother. I thought Despicable Me 2 was a little a letdown, but the number 1 and 3 I thought were the superior ones in the series. But I like how he did Gru, but then he did the polar opposite of Gru as well.
Oh, I'm gonna do something you're gonna love. I just gotta make sure he's in it. And I'm pretty sure he's in it. Malibu's Most Wanted.
Who's in Malibu's Most Wanted?
Terry Crews.
Oh, that's right, because he did all the great dancing in it, right?
With the giant robot. Oh, he's in The Longest Yard, too, so that director must love him.
All right, I'll take The Longest Yard.
Oh, okay, so The Longest Yard. All right, I'm going to go to James Caan. I'm going to grab something from his filmography, because I got to go big here, but I probably won't. I'll just pick a really random one. You know what? James Caan, I could go big, I could go weird, but
Like French Connection?
I'm going to take Misery.
Oh.
Why not? It's great bed line. Laying
Nice
in the
pull.
bed. So you have let's see. You have Elf, Pain and Gain, Dark Knight, Despicable Me 3, and
Longest Yard.
The Longest Yard, and I have The Way Back, The Devil Wears Prada, Cheap Thrills, Malibu's Most Wanted, and Misery.
That's a pretty random matchup. You got to post that one.
Oh,
Curious to see what the votes
I
are.
gotta do our Amy Smart one from Just Friends. I gotta find those. I gotta find those movies again. I gotta listen to the episode.
I've enjoyed our early 2000s movies, bringing them back to the public conscious.
That's
It's been
right.
a lot of fun to revisit some of these.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me, Eric.
Yeah, that was a blast.
That went by quick.
Just like Get Smart.
Yeah,
Just a quick movie.
Yeah, hour 45.
Quick, enjoyable, light.
Yeah, get out of there quick. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me. So,
Yeah, thanks.
So-
I'm gonna go milk some spiders. They don't like it.
oh yeah, I forgot about that line. Oh gosh. All right, so for me, wait, what was the name that I totally forgot the name. For me,
Newt
Siegfried.
You're Siegfried. I'm Newtnik Spilkis.
This is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week. Newtnik?